So folks, yes, welcome in to Native Education Pathways Year 3, welcoming in our partnership network across tribal education, school districts, and also higher ed. We're honored to be together today, and so off to a good start. I would like to acknowledge that UW-Madison is on occupies ancestral Ho-Chunk territory. And I want to personally honor the commitment and stewardship of land, water, and air that Ho-Chunk and all the First Nations in Wisconsin have engaged in, and express my ongoing commitment to working in environmental stewardship in youth education, pathways into natural resource careers together with tribal nations daily. And so want to acknowledge that commitment and express gratitude. So thank you all again for being here. Like to go to our first speaker, welcoming in Adrienne Thunder of Ho-Chunk Language Division. Adrienne, welcome in. And do I need to are you talking with slides? Or you? Okay, yeah, you're muted, lady.
Yep. A few slides I could share.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, right when you said that, I pressed stop recording by mistake. So yeah. Okay, so I will make you a co-host, lady. Here we go. And then you'll have screen sharing.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Welcome in, and turning the mic over to you, Adrienne.
All right, thank you. Hana Chaikapi Hinikaragiwi, Maikarajara Adrienne Thunder, Ho-Chunk Waziza Chi, Language Division Manager, Waunangshana. Thank you very much for inviting me to be a part of this gathering today. I'd like to greet each and every one of you a good afternoon. Hope everyone is doing well as the weather changes yet again. So I have a lot that I could say. I'm trying to think about just the vast, the far reaches of what we're doing in language today. We've got a lot going on, and we've had for quite a while, but I think the three things that I want to focus on today have to do a little bit with some of the resources that we're working on. One of them will be about the approach that we're contemplating as we move forward. And then another aspect on working with students and the future of, I guess, language work as far as the Ho-Chunk Nation is concerned. So first and foremost, I want to talk a little bit about our most recent project. And we are working on an online dictionary. And I mean working on, we have it out there in the public, but it is a dynamic resource. So of course we're constantly working on refining and editing, revising as we go along. The cool thing about the dictionary that we have is it has both male and female pronunciations of each of the terms that you'll find in it. And then the other thing that's kind of exciting too is that it has variations of many words. So while you're looking up the meaning of one word or the root of one word, you'll find a whole plethora of other terms that will help you in your learning journey. So you'll make connections a little bit easier, and you'll see some conjugations that will make learning terms easier. So this is a presentation that I gave just this last weekend, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but I do kind of want to highlight some of the work that went into the online dictionary along the way. First and foremost, that we owe a great debt of gratitude to the speakers who came before us and all the people who worked in the language division prior to this iteration of people that we have working on the dictionary. There have been a couple of major works from which our dictionary sprang. We've had a few lexicons developed over time, both by tribal members and non-tribal entities. In more recent years, I would say in the 80s for sure and forward, a lot of the work really was about developing learning resources. So while we did have a few lexicons developed, what we didn't have was a lot of recordings or lesson books or anything like that. So a lot of the work went into developing those types of resources. In recent years, however, we were fortunate to make a connection with the Language Conservancy, and in 2018, we started conversations about developing our dictionary. So that's been a very start and stop process that it took a lot of patience on everybody's part. But slowly but surely we move forward, and we began the work that would lead to our developing the dictionary. So one of them was a rapid word collection session. So we did a few of those throughout the last 3 years. We had a couple of big pushes. We did a week's worth back in 2 weeks worth back in 2018. So at 2 different times of the year, we brought our elders together, and we went through a whole collection of terms on various topics, and spent all of this time kind of reaching into their brains as far as they would let us, and coming up with terms that they might not have used for a while, and there were probably terms in there for which we did not yet have a Ho-Chunk term for, but they worked together and developed something that they thought would make a lot of sense. And so there were a few terms that were coined during that time, and all of our speakers felt like it was a lot of fun, and that was probably the most Ho-Chunk they used at a prolonged period of time than they had in a long while. So it was a really enjoyable process for them. So here we have a couple of images of some of the elders who participated in that process. And it was a good learning experience for our apprentices at the time also. So they got to sharpen their language skills. And of course, they are much more adept with the written language than a lot of our elders, just because they hadn't seen it in written form most of the time while they were growing up. And the alphabet and the lexicon and all of the written materials, of course, came much, much later. So I think it was a good learning experience for them in that way. And yeah, we got a lot of words collected. So by the end of the very first one, the rapid word collection, we came up with pretty close to 13,000 terms in Ho-Chunk. So I think it was something like 12,800 and something. But yeah, it was a pretty exciting process. Then, of course, the pandemic hit, so we kind of had to put things on pause. And then because we had to shut down all of our revenue generating enterprises, there wasn't a lot of money for even staff, let alone, a project of this size. So things kind of had to go into pause for a little bit. But we eventually applied for some A&A grants, and we were awarded those, which really helped us out quite a bit. We could not have continued this work without that funding. And so we were able to finish some of the other re-record sessions that we needed to do. And there wasn't a lot of re-recording that needed to get done, but so we got to finish that process, and then we moved on. We eventually completed the first phase, or the first iteration of the online dictionary, just this past summer, probably late spring, early summer. And then we worked on revision up until the time it went live on July 31st, just this year. So it's still fairly new. People are still sending us corrections and revisions. I think we've received somewhere close to 400. And we're pretty excited about that. It means that people are using it, and they're taking it to heart and incorporating it in their learning process. So our dictionary will be dynamic. There will continue to be work on it. And I can't say enough about our staff. Henning Garvin in particular has been a really valuable member of our team, working with the Language Conservancy and all the folks who are doing this fantastic work behind the scenes, constructing the apps, and doing all the programming with the database and the website and everything. It's just really been a really good experience. Like I said, for our elders too, I feel like this is something that they've wanted to see happen for quite a long time, and we were finally able to make it happen, and we're pretty excited about that. And one of the things that this process illuminated for us is that it takes so many people not just those who are, you know, really involved in the language learning and teaching process, but people who bring other talents to bear. So I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but that's another thing that came out of this process for us. Okay, so I'm going to move over to a different screen now, and let me see if I can find it. Bear along with me here for just a little bit. I have too many windows open right now. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to share with you was a little bit about, oops, our Mukutu project, which is another thing that we've been working on for a few years. And again, I'm not going to go through this whole presentation, but again, our deepest appreciation goes to Omar Polar, who was somebody who got us involved in this work, and, you know, kind of talked with us about the process and what would it take to do this. What it eventually does is take all of our materials that we've had, you know, 30 plus years worth of collecting audio, video, and written materials, and it was all sitting in a storage room. So we knew we had it, as well as a lot of other resources, but in terms of making them usable and shareable, they weren't in any form for us to be able to do that. And so it really came down to, you know, a process of having to catalog and, you know, sort through all of this information. And again, because of Omar, Janice, and Josie Lee, all of them kind of came together, put their heads together, and probably Aaron too had some things to do with that maybe, but bringing together the university and the tribe and making sure that we had a connection to help us with this process. We got together with a tribal library, archives, and museums class out of the iSchool, and one of their projects was to come and help us with the cataloging process. And so over the last I would say 3 of the 5 years, we had a team coming in to help us with that process. So they took all of our materials, sorted things out, gave things labels, added catalog numbers. We started a database, and slowly but surely, all of this information was organized and we knew what we had. And now it's just a matter of getting it all posted and edited and to make it much more usable. But that was the first really huge hurdle that we had to overcome. And so I'm really thankful that, again, we've had the fortunate partnership that we had with the university to be able to carry out something like this. And again, all of these materials will be usable by anybody who wants to use them. The Mukutu, you know, CMS basically, well, not CMS, but I guess data will be able to help us, you know, sort out community access for students, for community members, for tribal leadership, you know, whatever we want to designate as community access, we'll be able to do that using this system. And again, it's the TLAM classes that helped us do this. So again, all this entire process, cataloging, digitization. You can see here, this was back in 2019 that we first put this presentation together, but all of this material, we were just impressed with how quickly they were able to process all of this. So in 2017 is really when the project began. 2018, they were kind of waist deep in it. But again, just really making incredible progress. And then by 2019, we were able to look a little bit more at the material itself and starting to process what we wanted to have done with it later on. So that was pretty fantastic. And then, of course, this is the kind of final product of the sorting process. They were able to, again, group all of this by similar media and give them catalog numbers. So there's that. And then the last piece that I wanted to talk about through all of this is, as I mentioned, the process of going to the dictionary especially, and wanting to make that available for tribal members to use, kind of showed us that we really needed to look at recruiting students who had interest not only in language, but in areas of support for this work. So whether that included communications backgrounds, anything having to do with audio, video, editing, if you're interested in history and anthropology, if you're interested in lighting, like all of these areas that are really practical things that have to do with developing the materials that we need to get the information out, so that our students are able to access it at whatever learning level they're at. And so we really want to kind of put the push out there for even if you have an interest in languages and you're not that great at it, it's okay. You could bring your artistry, you could bring your technical talents, and that type of thing to this work, because that's really sorely needed as well. I think we have people from all kinds of, various interests and backgrounds, if you really look at it with the language division. And I think we're really asking a lot of them. And the work that they produced thus far, not only in language, but, with everything else that needs to get done. We're kind of miracle workers over here. And I really have a lot of respect and admiration for the things that they've been able to do in the last few years. So yeah, that's kind of what we're doing more currently, I guess, in a nutshell. Again, I want to thank you for inviting me to share what's going on with the language division. There's probably lots more I could say too about other things that are happening right now. Oh, and maybe just to give you just a little bit of a background too. So currently we are covering all learning levels, which is something that we haven't done. I don't think we've done ever. So we've had the early learning processes with, we tried various things with immersion, daycare and things like that. Right now we're doing a lot of online programming so that parents can partake of the language along with their little ones. So there are stories that are offered pretty regularly on our YouTube and Facebook social media sites. Right now, we're also doing an online program with the mostly K through 8 students, but K through 12 really could participate in it. It's called Bringing Ho-Chunk Home, and it's part of a partnership that we're doing with the Ho-Chunk Nation Department of Education and an OIE grant. And so our portion of it, of course, is to provide language instruction. And really, at this point, providing just awareness and exposure to the language and inviting students to kind of get comfortable with it, so that by the time they get to high school, they're actually ready to get into more serious study of the language, grammar and conversation and things like that. And then finally, we have the pathways courses that are our adult learning options for community members anywhere. And again, those are online. So we kind of cover the gamut, which is, again, something that we've been wanting to do for quite a long time. And we're available to do it today. So I guess maybe a couple of real quick things before I let you go here. I just kind of want to share some really neat things that have been happening a little bit more recently. So one of them, we've been wanting to update our materials. We hired a graphic artist to come on board and kind of more modernize some of the stuff that we're doing. So he came up with this really cool design for one of our booklets, our learning booklets. And let me make this a little bit bigger. And all he did was kind of go through and update, a lot of what we have in our materials, and it's really made a big difference. I think it's a little more fun visually, and it's a little more, I guess, updated, as some of our older materials they were starting to show their age quite a bit. So he added some fun things, as well as, some good color and nicer graphics and things like that. So we're pretty happy about that. And then one last thing, and then I really will wind this up, is our YouTube page. And again, there's quite a bit happening with our YouTube channels. Like I said, we're adding a lot more content for various learning levels. And so there's a lot more material out here for younger people. There's more stories. more songs and more just funner type things. We wanted to try to jazz up our online presence a little bit more. So rather than doing just straight up language lessons, we try to kind of jazz it up a little bit with pop culture references and other fun stuff. So that's it. Thank you for letting me share and brag about our people a little bit. we really enjoy the work that we do. It's sometimes it has its highs and lows, but for the most part, we really are, some dedicated people here and really care about what we're doing. And I hope that shows.
Mm-hmm. Certainly does. Folks, please join me in thanking Adrienne Thunder. We'd like to encourage some Q&A here. We'll see how our time's going. Would like to ask, is Sky Alloway, are you in the house? Sky Alloway, are you in the house? Okay. I think our second speaker might not be here. So Adrienne, if you're available, looks like we have a little time cushion here, folks. So I've been trying to contact Ms. Sky Alloway of Potawatomi. I'll keep working on that on the side here. But in the meantime, I saw Betsy Wood. Was that you that had your hand up? I'd like to invite our participants in to engage with our speaker here, Adrienne Thunder. So folks, if you do have questions, please make yourselves known and let's have some discussion. Betsy Wood?
Yeah, thank you. I just, that was just really my applause reaction.
Oh,
thank you for, it wasn't the hand raise, it was the applause reaction, but I see. It's difficult to hear about all the progress that's being made in this area. So I really want to thank you for, and Miigwech for sharing all of that. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Betsy. Other questions from our participants for Adrienne Thunder of Ho-Chunk Language Division? Inviting questions, comments.
Hi, Jess. This is Michelle.
Hi there, Michelle.
I'll lower my hand because I had my hand raised. I guess I have a question. Such a great work that's being done, Adrienne, in language. And I just came back from NIEA and I sat in briefly a session that had to do with intellectual property of language. And so I guess that's a question, like, does the nation own all of that property, intellectual property, and all of the lessons and everything that's happening along with language? Because what was presented out there was pretty scary things that were commandeered by non-native people over this tribal nation out west. And so I guess that's just a question because that lingers in my mind. So just asking that. Thank you.
I think to the extent that it can be protected, we've put those protections in place. It seems like if someone really wanted to do something nefarious, they'd probably find a way to do it. But to the extent that there are measures that can be taken, we've written into our contract working with the Language Conservancy, for example, a specific area on intellectual property, and that the language, I guess, is the property of the nation. But that we retain our rights to our language, and that the Language Conservancy, for its part, is retaining its right over more the technical aspects of the work that we're doing. So as I mentioned before, the database, the all the linguistic, whatever software and everything that they're using. So all of that process would be theirs. And again, the language to whatever extent we can, we're asserting our rights over that, again, within the contract itself. In addition to that, the Ho-Chunk Nation does have a language and culture code. And so we've expressed our stewardship over our language and over the things that we've historically done as an Indigenous nation. And so that is written in our code, and that we are asserting our right over those things. And then there are, means that they've written into the code as well as when it comes to our written resources, our recordings, et cetera, all those types of things that if we are working with another partner, a school district, for example, that we are lending our our knowledge to that institution for the sake of learning language and some of this cultural programming as well, and that we are retaining our rights in that way as well. So like I said, to whatever extent we're able to do that, we're taking those steps.
Thank you. And I just want to say, great job on all of the work that's being done. And,
Thank you.
blessings to the creator, obviously. Thank you so much.
Yeah, like I said, we have a great debt of gratitude to our elder speakers and everybody who's worked since the beginning. A lot of people might not know. I mean, there was a lot of controversy because ours was not a written language. Ours was more oral transmission of this language. And there was some controversy very early on about a writing system and whether we should be writing down our language. And so we've gone from that all the way to now here we are with an online dictionary. And of course, I think the question that Michelle asks and those that are being considered by other tribal nations has to do with that, the further away that it gets from the people, the more concern there is about it. And then of course, there's also the consideration of, once you put it down in writing, you don't want it to be static. You don't want it to stay there on the page or on the screen. It should still continue to be used between the people and with the people and through the people. And so, we have those concerns as well. And we want to make sure that to whatever extent we can, we're still doing person-to-person transmission of our language and supporting the relationships that go along with that. So yeah, I mean, we want to honor everything that they've, worried about and put into this language preservation and revitalization effort all this time. So yeah.
Thank you, Michelle Cloud, for your question. Good to hear from you. Want to invite in our participants. Other questions for Adrienne Thunder from our audience?
Hi, this is Diane. I have a question. Adrienne, how often does your board meet?
We are scheduled to meet quarterly this year. So
Okay.
again, along with all the budgetary stuff.
Yeah,
we're on schedule to meet quarterly, and we've met once already this year. So we're off to a good start.
And how many people sit on your board?
There are 7 elite, or I'm sorry, there are 3 elite elders and 4 regular elders. So there are 7 altogether, 5 for quorum.
Awesome.
And sometimes we've had a little trouble with that. Again, we're coming out of the pandemic, and we get you just got to be persistent, careful and persistent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I guess one other thing that I'll say about that too is, so one of the things that we found over this last weekend, talking with, there's probably like 10 other language groups that we met with over the past weekend, and Lakota was one of them. And they talked a little bit about their process of developing the dictionary, and now they're working on the e-learning platform. They're going to be working on something similar to Babel, and that's what we're going into next in the next phase of our work. But they had talked about, their tribal membership is somewhere, closer to like, 17 to 19,000 people or something like that. And I kind of thought, wow, that's nice to have that. And then she said they had somewhere close to like 400 speakers remaining. And they were going through a lot of some of the same controversy regarding, word choices and who were some of the contributors, and, just various things that, we went through at one time. And one of the things that I was telling her is that, we've gone to the point where we are in a dire situation. And I think anything that can help us further the language and the work that we're doing, we don't worry about that stuff anymore. We're just at such a critical point that anyone who wants to do this work and is willing to, put the time and energy into it, we'll take all all people who want to contribute. And so we don't have the luxury anymore of, kind of picking and choosing, who's going to be helping us with our language moving forward. There's a lot of second language learners that have joined us, and at this point you got to do the best with what you have, and I think some of the controversies of the past, we kind of put those to bed because of the nature of where we're at.
Adrienne, this is Jessie. I had a question about teaching techniques. I had heard, can you think about different styles of learning, and I was wondering how you address that. And my specific question was, because you were talking about person-to-person transmission, and I'd heard about from Mr. Dennis Canode, who will be with us tomorrow. He was teaching me about total physical response for teaching. And we've hosted some other tribal language divisions this year, and so we've been kind of talking about different teaching techniques and what's working for different learners and age groups. So just wanted to ask you if you're willing to share if you all use that physical response as part of your teaching suite for Ho-Chunk language.
Absolutely. So over the last, I would say, 4 years or so, we've been working on comprehensible input, of which TPR is part of that. And that's, something that our staff really believes in strongly. So we've got some pretty hardcore adherence to whatever we can do that will help our learners access language and understanding comprehension. It's just really important that they do language. So not only listening, not only reading, not only hearing, but any way that we can help them inhabit the language, because that's really kind of what we're headed towards. We really want to make sure that they are getting language as authentically as possible. And so, we'll try anything, at this point. And really that's what makes language learning fun, is if you can tie it directly to someone's hobbies, their interests, the things that they care about. Those are the things that are the most important for us, is to just try to tap into their emotions, really, and their lives, things that really matter to people. So, we've seen this things like song. We've worked with song this last summer. We taught kids the thank you song, the love one another song, and then each of our flag songs. And again, the effort was so that that's something that they hear on a fairly regular basis, and that's something that helps them identify what it means to be Ho-Chunk. You go to these gatherings and they're sharing not only the food and whatever ceremonies are going on, and the songs play a pretty important role. So whatever means possible that we can use to help kids understand, or learners at any age or any level understand language and kind of incorporate that into their daily lives, we're going to use it.
Well, thank you for saying that, Adrienne. I just want to share when the pandemic hit, because you mentioned that in your presentation, that I had my mom come and live back with me, at the family home where I live now. And at that time, she had translated some books into Ho-Chunk. And so like on Saturday mornings, we would get everyone, like my 4 children, my grandchildren, her great-grandchildren, and she would read those books to them. And she would, and they always say, they're listening, even though they're not sitting there, looking right at the screen. So that was just one way that I wanted to share, just because of how awesome it was. That was the only way we could see each other too, was through Zoom. So she'd sit there and she'd talk to them and have them like repeat words. And this is what this is saying, because they know, the monkeys jumping on the bed. That was their favorite one. she had translated that to Ho-Chunk and read them stories out of books. So just an example. I wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pina Gigi, good discussion. Any other questions for for Adrienne Thunder folks.
Yeah,
Just speak. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question, and congrats on all that great work, Adrienne. Nice to see you.
Good seeing
Um,
you.
Yeah. So I went to the University of South Dakota. That's where I got my bachelor's degree.
Mhm,
And so I met some of your cousins from the Nebraska Winnebago
mhm.
when I was in college, and I know they're doing language renaissance stuff there. Are you teamed up with them, partnering with them on this big project that you're involved in, language revitalization?
There are times when we do collaborate. It's not as ongoing as I would like for it to be. And I think we each, are struggling with various aspects of, programming, and, we're both coming out of the pandemic too. So, I mean, there probably could be opportunities that we're not looking into right now, but will probably come to pass in a little while here. But yeah, one of the main kind of hangups is our writing systems are a little bit different. So until we kind of have some conversation about, how we're gonna, navigate our way around that, I think that probably puts a little bit of a hitch in some of the work moving forward, but I wouldn't say that there's so many differences that they can't be overcome. It's just a matter of us kind of working that type of thing out. But yeah, it's the same language. There's actually been a larger movement with Iowa and Oto and other Siouan languages to come back together and kind of share our work and some of the things that are happening within those areas as well. So there's a lot to look forward to. There's a lot of work still to be done, but yeah, I think slowly but surely, I think this is all heading towards a really nice collaboration possibility.
Congratulations and
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Ron Pinagigi, for weighing in. Good to hear you. Other participants, any other questions, comments for items of discussion for Adrienne Thunder?
Hey, Adrienne, Aaron Birdbear here.
Hey, Aaron.
Hey, Adrienne. Quick question. When I think of Native education pathways, and I think about the availability and accessibility of Indigenous language instruction in higher education, I've heard anecdotally, that we lose a lot of our Ojibwe students from the north to the Twin Cities school with our tuition reciprocity. And because of the regular offerings of Indigenous languages that they provide there. And so we have been a little inconsistent with our Indigenous languages offerings, although this semester we're teaching 6 Indigenous languages on campus, but I don't know if we'll continue the trend of a sequence that students can be prepared for. And as you know, as an academic advisor, it's hard to plan with a student like, will this language be offered your junior year or not offered, right? So it can be a little kind of uncertainty if Indigenous students will be able to access language instruction. So when I think of Native education pathways, and maybe you're the wrong person to ask this, but I think of, is consistent and predictable Indigenous language instruction important for us as we consider Native education pathways to our institution? And if so, do we as an institution have to embark on like a memorandum of understanding or something with the Ho-Chunk language division or the Ho-Chunk nation to kind of ensure that we have kind of regular and consistent language offerings that students can plan to take, 1, 2, 3, 4 semesters down the road?
Yeah, I would call that a catch-22 situation. And I'll say first and foremost, I mean, like the willingness is there for sure. I mean, we would love to see that. I think secondly, though, the issue that we come up against is training enough people and getting enough, it really comes down to a question of manpower and availability. It takes a long time to get someone up to speed in terms of language just by itself, but then also kind of teach them pedagogically, here's how you handle a college classroom. And so that takes a little bit of doing as well. And there aren't that many formal education experiences that our students, either have the time or are able to take within close vicinity. We'd had an experiment a few years ago where we worked with one of the UW colleges back when they still existed. And the coursework that they were involved in was somewhat helpful, but there was not the amount of pre-planning, I think, with some of the adjustments that needed to be made with the courses, because they would be dealing with Indigenous communities and the languages. And so you would do things a little bit differently, but that didn't happen. And so there was some really mixed results with that. But I thought it was a great idea. And I think if we could find another institution to work with that would help us kind of tailor some of those courses towards, you know, what our end goal is, we would have a much better time of it. So I would say if we could kind of get over that hump, we would be at a much better place. But until that happens, unfortunately, we're, you know, faced with the situation of teacher glut, you know.
Thanks, Adrienne.
Thank you
good
for
to
the
hear ya.
questions.
Yeah, good. Participants, anyone else want to ask a question? We've got time for one more here. We're blessed with Adrienne. It's the Adrienne Thunder Hour. So, we're gonna do this weekly. We didn't tell you that yet, Adrienne. But so participants, welcome in. We'd love to hear from you. We've got time for one more question for our speaker. If anyone else wants to weigh in, please make yourselves known.
Well, if there aren't any questions, I guess I would put in my last minute plug for, really encouraging students to look into cultural work within tribal nations. Again, the areas that we're involved with are they're just all over the place. I mean, again, the talents that students bring into the environment, again, especially when it comes to media and that type of thing, or if they have an interest in, you know, anthropology, sociology, and I would say even writing skills, various things like that. All of those things come to bear really heavily on resource production. And that's really where a lot of our delays, I think, in course offerings are happening, is that we just don't have the material processed enough to be able to make it, usable for learners on the back end. So anybody who can help us with that process, you know, right now we have again, because of the Mukatu project and everything that's kind of come out of that, we have just a huge trove of language resources that are at our fingertips. Basically, it just needs to be put into something workable and hopefully entertaining, and keeps students' interest, and helps them kind of enjoy the process along the way. So we have a bunch of instructors who are a lot younger coming in, which I think is a lot of fun. They're bringing in a lot of the social media, TikToks and things like that. So even that stuff is just, it's fun. I'm glad to see that that's happening, making that connection with younger learners. But again, I just kind of want to put the appeal out there. If you know of anybody that's interested in that type of work, don't overlook the needs of tribal nations when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Every little bit helps.
Yes. And copy that. Thank you for that plug. And Pina Gigi, Adrienne Thunder, for your hard work. It's been so good to get to know you over the years a little bit, and we really appreciate you joining in and putting in some extra time with us tonight. What an honor. Participants, please join me in expressing your gratitude to Adrienne Thunder in the chat. Adrienne, before you jump off, as we transition out here, would you be willing to share some of those links to the resources that you shared in the chat, and then we can rip those down and share them with participants, if you're willing to share your YouTube and the other,
Sure.
the website, and then that other resource that you shared with us. That would be excellent if you don't mind.
Yes.
Folks, yeah, good.
I was just going to say this. So let me also say we are revamping our website. It will actually debut as the Ho-Chunk Academy moving forward. So we're currently in the process of reorganizing all of our info, but I'll give you our YouTube channels and of course our Facebook link. So that's where a lot of our programming can be found. Okay,
that sounds really good. Yep, so we can find you there. Participants, please do join me in expressing our gratitude to Adrienne Thunder in the chat. Be good to hear from you. And again, Peter, Gigi, Adrienne, for your hard work and for being with us tonight. I'd like to transition us now, folks, over to our next unit. We're going to go now to some Native Education Pathways project updates. We've got a star lineup here. Apologies to our guests. We usually have our guests go first, but we our ordering turned out a little bit differently. So guests will be welcoming you in. This will be the order that we're going in, folks. We'll start with Ron Jetty and then go to Cleo of UW Seattle. I saw Cleo join in. Welcome, Cleo. And I'll help with transitions. Sarah Gordon Altiman is here to share Deepening Indigenized STEM. And then we'll finish up with Amber Marlow. I haven't seen her on yet, so I don't know if one of the EP folks wants to reach out to Amber and remind her about the project updates. We've got 4 projects, so we can go, yeah, maybe about 7 minutes each. And then if we have time at the end, if Amber's not here, we can do questions at the end. So that being said, I'd like to welcome in Mr. Ron Jetty of Information Technology Academy here at UW-Madison. Ron, good to see you. And I'll turn it over to you if you want to do a longer introduction. Good to see you. Welcome in.
Yeah, thank you, Jessie. Much appreciated. Good afternoon, everyone, or good early evening, I guess, if we want to say. It's 5:02 right now. So I'm Ron Jetty. I'm and I will share my screen here if it cooperates. Yeah, so nice to see everyone this evening. I guess you all heard me ask Adrienne the question earlier. So I'm member of the Spirit Lake Nation out of Fort Totten, North Dakota. It's where I'm enrolled, and my mother grew up in the Turtle Mountains, so I'm also Ojibwe heritage, and French Canadian for the European part of me, I guess. So it's great to see everyone here. I got my bachelor's degree at the University of South Dakota, grew up out west. And then ended up here in Madison for a PhD program long time ago. So after a few other professional jobs, have been with this current job at the Information Technology Academy here as director since 2015. And so these are our 3 stamps here. So we have a long-standing program in Madison, ITA Madison. Our first graduates from ITA Madison came through in 2004. And then we have 2 tribal sites, one in Lac du Flambeau and one in Oneida. So we've got program stamps there, and we're in the process of revising and getting a new website, a new outreach look and feel, a little more student-oriented website that will be coming up online later this fall. So ITA, what do? We're housed in Central IT here at the University of Wisconsin, and we have a partnership agreement with the People program here at UW-Madison. So it's pretty unique to actually have a program like this housed in Central IT, a pre-college pathways program. No other Big Ten university or really any major public university in the country has something like this. But so it's kind of the Wisconsin way to do this kind of thing. So what do? We look at historically underrepresented first-generation students to provide them information technology knowledge across a broad spectrum. So our students learn about everything from computer hardware to photography, web design, to coding, and video. We give them a broad perspective and hands-on experiences with technology, information technology. All of our students receive a university-owned laptop that we loan to them with all the licensed software they'll use and engage with during their time in the program. So there's IT, half of what they do is IT experiences. And then the other half is college prep curriculum. So the goal is by the time a student's a senior, we want them to be a competitive applicant for admission to UW-Madison. So they're coming in, they're learning study skills, they're learning some leadership and career development. We have mock interviews, students write cover letters, they engage with professionals on mock interviews, so they get ready for that career aspect. And then ACT prep, a college prep course at the end. And then that culminates, we have a residential program as well. So rising seniors then will spend a week on campus in a residential setting. So they'll get a feel for what it's like to be on a large campus like ours here at Madison. And yeah, then that culminates with college application and acceptance. And so since, and apologies, I didn't have a great deal of time to prep. We're busy with some staff transitions, and I'm busy trying to hire additional staff and some movement around. So I'll have a better data visual representation that I can share with Jessie to get out to the conference participants here. But so since 2004, we've graduated 473 students total from ITA. Out of that, 266 were admitted to UW-Madison. So 56% of our ITA graduates are admitted to UW-Madison as direct admits to the university. And then 253 of them ultimately enrolled at UW-Madison. So some of those students came to us via transfer or may have started somewhere else, but we've got over 53% of them at some point attending UW-Madison. So over 95% of our graduates are admitted to post-secondary institutions. And so we're quite proud of this data. So out of this, let's break this down a little bit, because Madison program has been around since 2000 and those first graduates, like I said, in 2004, 399 graduates then from ITA Madison. And then in 2017, we graduated the first cohorts from Lac du Flambeau and Oneida. And out of that, we have 33 graduates from Lac du Flambeau since 2017. 16 of them ultimately admitted to UW-Madison. 14 were direct admits. 2 of them came to campus via the Madison College Liberal Arts Transfer. 2 of those students who were admitted from high school directly chose a different university, their best fit. One went to UW-Milwaukee, and the other one went to Johnson and Wales University. She's a very outstanding, talented hockey player. So she's playing goalie out there at Johnson and Wales University in Rhode Island. And then the other 17 graduates, we had a couple with gap years. But we had one at UW-La Crosse, a couple at UW-Milwaukee, not the one that I mentioned earlier, distinct from the other student above. So 3 ultimately at Milwaukee, but 2 at UW-Stout, 1 at UW-Eau Claire. So those are the system institutions. And then Loyola University down in Chicago, Nicolet College up north. A couple students went there. A couple students went to North Central Technical College. 3 at Madison College. So 1 went there and didn't come on the liberal arts transfer. 2 of them ultimately did. And then 1 student chose Vermilion Community College in Minnesota. So those are our Lac du Flambeau graduates. And then let me give you a snapshot of our Oneida graduates here. So we have 41 graduates from our Oneida cohorts, again, since 2017. 29 of those students were admitted to UW-Madison as direct admits. 21 chose to attend the university. And then other post-secondary choices that 8 of them made. One chose a career in the Marine Corps. One decided to go to UW River Falls. She was interested in rodeo, and they have she loves horses, and that was her best fit for her. So we wished her well to go over there. One attended UW Green Bay. One went to Colorado Mesa University on a golf scholarship. One of our Oneida alumni was admitted to Syracuse University and is on a lacrosse scholarship. And then one student at Northeast Wisconsin Technical College. So they chose their best fit. That residential experience that we do, some students learn that, you know, this large campus may not be the initial best fit for them, and we wish them well when they go somewhere else with their post-secondary pursuits. And then the other 12 that weren't direct admits, we have other system institutions represented here: Eau Claire, Green Bay, Milwaukee, and UW Stevens Point, respectively. And then some of them chose private post-secondary institutions: Alverno College in Milwaukee, Columbia College down in Chicago, MIAD, the Milwaukee Institute of Art and Design, Northeast Wisconsin Tech again, the University of the Arts out in Philadelphia, Western Michigan University, and then a couple of those students chose gap years. So high success rate, and our students that come here, you know, I was last week, we had, it was great to be back at an event. I guess at this stage of the pandemic, things are opened up a little more. There was the Indigenous Day powwow. Some of our alumni who are UW-Madison students now were at the drum, and also dancers, and then also just at the powwow to visit with. So they get engaged, and you'll hear actually from several of them tomorrow when we have student panels on as part of this. And so that's I hope I stuck within the 7 minutes here, Jessie, and followed your rule. I'm going to stop sharing, and yeah, that's a little bit about the ITA program.
Excellent. Thank you, Ron Jetty. Dr. Ron Jetty. Sorry about that earlier. I had your prefix wrong. We'd like to transition over to some guests joining in from the West Coast. Would like to welcome in Cleo and Lisa. Good to see you folks. Turning the mic over to you, and please introduce yourselves in the way that you would like to, and great to see you. Welcome.
I think you're muted, Lisa.
So Lisa, you're muted. So the little microphone, click on that lower left. There we go.
Got it, yay.
Amazing.
I know.
So-
we're still doing that. Welcome, Lisa.
Well, thank you very much for having us, and I'm very happy to be here talking with you from actually not my own territory. So not because I'd like to be away from my own territory, but I'm very happy to be here. A whole series of tribes, so from this area and around the Seattle, Duwamish. So there's actually a whole big list, and people says, okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, no, there's about 7 different tribes here. I feel close to this area because I actually went to high school in Juneau, Alaska, and this was always the kind of the first portal to the lower 48. But it's, most of you know, I am from Northern California, so Karuk and Yurok Indian. I'm here working with Cleo. We're doing some face-to-face work with a lot of with a couple of students here, also with some of our colleagues and stakeholders at the Burke Museum. We've been having some planning meetings, but also some check-ins with some of the students that have that we've worked with down in our area, looking at different ways in which Native students can be participating in cultural activities and being able to come without that background. So as you know, so many of our Native students are, come from backgrounds where they haven't been able to bring the culture with them through their parents, or whether it's adoption, or whether their tribes are, aren't functioning, or they're not, they aren't from their tribal homelands. So I think what we've been able to offer is something really, kind of a good patchwork for a lot of those students that feel a little, dislocated or disenfranchised from their own homelands. And it gives them a way to be able to connect with the pan-tribal identity in a way that's very healing. And we've been looking at plants and the ways that the plants have perhaps changed through climate change or in different environmental management regimes, and the way that they've changed in and how that's affected then our cultural practices, as well as ceremonial practices. That was one, there's been a couple of things that we've been doing over the past months that have really been very heavy ceremonial centered, because this is our time of year for world renewal. We just finished, and the cycle is, goes up and down the entire river. And so, this not only our tribe, but also the Yurok tribe and the Shasta tribes, so the Hoopa tribe. So all of these, different ceremonial, so dances or ceremonies, I guess to say, they are very keenly centered on environmental and mental health, so practices and state of mind. And I think this year has been especially interesting in that there have been more people at ceremonial practices. So there have been a lot more people interested and then talking about their experience as maybe they're blonde, maybe they don't really feel like they fit in, they are tribal, but how do I make this way? How can I express that that spirituality and in a way that is emotionally healing and that makes me to be the kind of Indian that I want to be? So that's been a lot of the talk, up and down the river corridor. And we've also followed that with a number of series of cultural burning practices. And I'm the wise Indian that got to advise a whole pack load of Indigenous women for the Indigenous Women's Training Exchange. This year, it was a 2-week going on with my, I worked with my teacher, teachers Verna Reese. We're both, being mentoring as those young people as far as culture burning practices with regard to basketry materials and also food materials, foodstuffs, natural foods, and what that means for our identity. And so that was a very powerful experience. And I got to kind of pass the torch off to my son-in-law who came down. Is with our daughter working or up in Portland area, but he came down to work on the regular training exchange for for 2 weeks. This is what you see here in those photographs. And so I went up and got to babysit my grandson. So it's been really a great, fascinating, couple of months feeling like, we've got some powerful movement, a lot of, especially I was kind of heavy on the young women this year because of, that training exchange. But it's, you know, they were from all over the world, but really coming to Karuk country to learn our practices to bring back to their homelands. And these are women in academia or going towards there, or in kind of a way of like looking toward getting their fire credentials for doing so a lot more fire, you know, fire practice, getting good fire on the ground. Over.
Oh, good to hear, Lisa. Wow. Cleo, did you want to add on or share? Or... Hi, Cleo.
Hi, yeah. Well, Lisa covered so much, and you know, I guess I'll just talk a little bit about the university side of our partnership. So at Tishonik, this place that you see in the picture, Lisa, so the way that Lisa and I met was we co-ran a field course for University of Washington students and for tribal high school and just going into college students back in 2019. So that was a 12-day field course that involved us going around down in the Klamath, and then everyone coming up to the University of Washington and doing a data analysis workshop there. And so this was like the beginning of our partnership, and when we decided to focus you know, on this place Tishonik and having some co-generated design. And so part of this is in engaging with the Native interns through the Karuk Department of Natural Resources summer program to do like a 1-week field course. So where graduate students and me and other researchers are kind of showing some of the science, but it's inside of the context of Karuk protocol and Karuk science. So like these Western methods that are being used, right, by different wildlife division and water quality and fisheries. And then, you know, moving forward, yeah, we're trying to develop both like curriculum for, you know, pre-college, but also these college field courses that would be bringing together Native youth and non-Native youth, and really like kind of looking at what happens when Western science is inside of cultural protocol. And a lot of the work that the youth have done that's been really great is these videos and documenting, you know, from their perspective, like what is the future of this place, what is our vision. There's a lot of mining that has happened here there, as well as fire suppression and other you know, settler colonial issues. Sorry, I'm trying to multitask now. So I was just going to try to show you this video. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but this is from Julia and Hatim, who are two of the high school students.
Jackson. I
you guys see that?
For the group tribe.
Yeah, we can see it.
My name is Hatim Drake, and I'm an uprising senior. One thing I would like to change about Tishonik is trying to take out the invasive species. There are many native species in that area, but they're not able to grow like they should because of the invasive species. What's interesting about this project is trying to find a way to restore our land from what the miners did to it back in the day. I know that when the miners came, they wanted gold, so they completely changed the course of the river. This impacted the fish and other river wildlife. The fish don't like the straight and fast current of the river like it is now. River changing also affects plants on land. For example, the willow don't get hit with the river because it doesn't come up high enough anymore. So the willow grow too big and they have to be burnt instead of washed up by the river. The river also hits the bank, which will eventually cause the road above to collapse. This project and others like it affect our community by helping to engage and inspire community members and even people who don't live here to make a difference. With everyone participating in these types of projects, there will also be a lot more knowledge or issues in the community. My hopes for this community in the future are that our resources and culture can become stronger and things will slowly be returned to how they were originally supposed to be.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And that's
Yeah.
just to say those those girls did everything on that video all themselves, and we're so proud of them. So thank you.
Thank you, Cleo, Lisa, huge respect for you all, and humongous thanks for joining in today. It's really good to be with you and hear about your projects. How inspiring. Looking forward to working more together. I'd like to transition us over now to Sarah Gordon Altiman, joining to discuss Deepening Indigenized STEM, supported by the National Science Foundation. Bonjour, Sarah. Good to see you. Turning the mic over to you, lady.
Thank you, Miigwech. Bonjour, Gakanawea. My name is Sarah Gordon Altiman, and I hail from the Red Cliff Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa in northern Wisconsin. I'm working with the Earth Partnership Program as an outreach coordinator in the curriculum development area. I'm also a doctoral student here in Milwaukee, where I'm studying urban education and American Indian educational policy. So that work kind of all combines itself really neatly together in one of the projects that I'm working on in Bayfield. I was asked to help facilitate some of the meetings that the community was having in an attempt to bring out lesson plans that were indigenized that could be used in the school. And I'm just gonna, in the Bayfield school system. So I'm just gonna share my screen for a moment to give you a little bit of background information. Oh, it says I cannot share my screen. I'm a participant. So, if you can do that, Jessie, that's great. Otherwise, I can just click on it and talk about what's on that until I until you're there.
I made you a co-host, lady. There you go.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of background on the area. So can everybody see this little document here? It's nothing too special.
Yeah.
So the group that was involved as stakeholders in the process of developing our first lesson plan essentially came together to decide what they wanted to have included in the lesson plan, what was important to the people in the Red Cliff community. So I just wanted to say that Bayfield School District is unique because it is 80% Ojibwe students from the Red Cliff Band. Out of 408 total students in the district of 4 schools, 326 of those students are Anishinaabe people. So it's a unique opportunity in that sense where there's a lot of buy-in from the community and a lot of understanding from the non-Native community members as to why this is important. So community tribal members, parents, the Tribal Historic Preservation Office staff, language staff, teachers and administration, elders with traditional ecological knowledge, and the school superintendent were all brought in to meet on multiple occasions, including for a listening session that produced some of the goals that the community wanted to see, which really broke down to 3 specific areas. Language was the most important thing that parents and community members wanted to see in the schools, seasonal and cultural activity, and more knowledge of local plants, hunting, and fishing. So the Johnson O'Malley parent committee was also part of the background information in giving us this the data of what the community wanted. So some of the barriers that we came across when we were discussing this with some of the classroom teachers about how we could do, adding, the idea was we were going to create an Indigenous lesson plan and give it to somebody to use in a classroom. And when that was discussed with the teachers, they said they just didn't have time during the course of the day to add something new, in addition to all of the other mandated lesson plans that they had to do and time constraints for specific topics. So we really asked ourselves, okay, can they add more lessons? They really can't. And we wanted this out of the area of social studies alone, because what we find is 99% of what Indigenous students and non-Indigenous students are taught taught about Indigenous people only happens in social studies classrooms in the K through 12 groups. So what we decided was that we were going to try to indigenize a lesson plan that was already being used. And I'm going to show you the example of what we ended up coming up with. I need to see if I can get, I'm gonna have to stop sharing for a minute because I can't see my tabs. I can't see the tab that's underneath the line. So let me go back, it's right there. Now I'll go in. Okay, now I can do it. So I just wanted to show you all kind of the process that this particular community came up with. And it's, you know, by chance that I'm part of this community. I have been involved in, you know, meetings and listening to what the goals of other Anishinaabe communities are in the area. But this particular lesson plan was one that's actually used in Bayfield. And so I don't know if you guys should be able to see my notes at the bottom here. So this is a science lesson, and the initial video sets up a hypothetical situation in which kids use lemonade or an ice cream stand to make money. So when prepping the ice cream, kids discover that vanilla is very expensive, which leads to wondering if growing a vanilla plant could work. The video then suggests that the kids could make a lot of money growing, selling vanilla seed pods. Once this effort is underway, the need for pollinators becomes clear. So this is a lesson that shows how to cross-pollinate plants by hand and why that's important in some agricultural sorts of operations. So we decided that this was just not very relative to a lot of Anishinaabe ways of thinking, and that the vanilla bean concept should be replaced with a sumac lemonade recipe, where we would show the students how and when to harvest sumac, how to process it so that it could be made into a sumac lemonade recipe, and discuss the collection, teaching about the offering of a sema or tobacco, removing the capitalistic focus on profit making from resources, and replace that with the concept of sharing with others, reciprocity, and gift giving. So we would suggest that this would be brought out to elders or made for a feast, or having some sort of a goal, an end goal that isn't profit making. We opted to skip the video altogether and either have an interactive experience at the Red Cliff greenhouse where they grow food and distribute that to the community, or to replace it with a video of the process of making the sumac lemonade in the community somehow. And then we also wanted them to see the cross-pollination of the Gete-Akusaman, the really old squash varieties that they are propagating in the Red Cliff greenhouse. So these were just ideas that came together from a group of people, you know, essentially in less than 10 minutes, a group of people that have, you know, cultural knowledge and experience saying, well, that could be replaced with this, and this doesn't make sense, that's not culturally appropriate or teaching culturally for our students. And so it really wasn't something that took a very long time. It was like we could instantly see what the problems were, and that's not something that we feel can be expected of non-native teachers, you know, to teach something that they don't know. And so we decided that there should be a committee that would be a standing committee at all points, whether that's, you know, a changing committee annually hasn't been decided, but that group of people would help teachers who wanted to indigenize some lessons that felt off to them, or a group of lessons for the whole school, whatever that may be. This would be the process of doing that. So it was also important that these lessons be aligned with the times of year where the certain things could be seen, you know, in an active experiential way for the students, so that they could, you know, this lesson could be brought to the greenhouse, or that sumac would be on the bushes, so that they could actively make that an outdoor sort of a lesson. So we also talked about, we had an elder, I'm gonna stop sharing now, because that's kind of the gist of how this lesson goes. Every page is pretty adjusted a little bit. But then when we were presenting this, we also have a resource list of community members who can do different things. And when I was first presenting this particular lesson plan, we happened to be at our summer institute for the Earth Partnership. And there was an elder there from Lac de Flambeau. No, I'm sorry, she's from LCOOU. And she offered to tell us a story that matched along with what the gist of this lesson was, which was a traditional Ojibwe story about butterflies and flowers and the competition that the two of them had with each other and why butterflies came to be, essentially. So it came together so perfectly to have that story be told and for it to match up so well with the lesson plan as it was. And that's the kind of thing that we wanted to see happen for the students, that they would have a traditional storyteller or have a person from the community be able to come in and align traditional knowledge with some of these science lessons, along with indigenizing them, you know, from start to finish. So I think that's a pretty good rundown of what we have been doing. So I think I'll stop there and let you move on, Jessie.
Yes, Miigwech, Sarah, Gordon, Altiman, participants, if you have questions for our presenters, Ron, Jetty, or Lisa and Cleo, or or Sarah, Gordon, Altiman, please do reach out to them in the chat and you can keep the discussion going there. I'm going to transition us to, I'm welcoming in, beamed again, Amber Marlow of LCOOU Ojibwe University. Amber, welcome, and would like to turn the mic over to you.
Bonjour. Misko Gija Gukwe, Indigenous, Jaganashi Moen, Magazine and Dudame, Odawazaga Igning and Dunjaba. So hello everyone, my name is Red Sky Woman. My English name is Amber Marlow. I'm from LCOOU and from the Eagle Clan. I'm happy to join you tonight. And as Jessie stated, I'm from LCOOU Ojibwe University, which that's a huge thing for us. So just within the last few months, we had approval from the Higher Learning Commission and officially changed our name and are now offering 2 master's programs, one in business and one in human services. So I'm joining tonight to give an update on the New Beginnings for Tribal Students project that is a partnership with between LCOOU, College of Menominee Nation, and the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So I will say in 2020, a group of, and there's quite a few on the call, came together when the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture released a new RFA program titled New Beginnings for Tribal Students. And we felt it was really imperative to move forward with the application in a collaborative way. And I think we've said officially that it's the first time all of the land grant institutions in Wisconsin have come together. You know, we've done things separately with each other, but as a combination, one of the, I think the best things as far as what's occurred or some of the outcomes is just the networking, the monthly meetings, and a lot of things that have kind of stemmed off of this project and created new projects for all of us. So I'm going to kind of step back and just give kind of a broad overview of kind of where we started. And again, so 2020, not that long ago, but I will say we're already at New Beginnings 3. So so kind of follow me along on this timeline here. But when we originally wrote the initial grant, it was really to look at how we can strengthen the pathways for Native youth. So how do we work with Native youth across Wisconsin from the K-12 level to the tribal college or university level, and again, promote STEM careers and build tribal capacity. And so part of that was to really look at that K-12 connection as far as professional development for teachers. So utilizing the Earth Partnership model and Indigenous arts and science curriculum and having that framework in more communities. So we are hosting an institute at Oreilles and hosting an institute at College of Menominee Nation. We also started a K-12 like advisory panel, and that was also made up of the tribal education directors, K-12 representatives, and then the campus members of each of the college institutions. The next thing we really felt it was important was that we look at the student perspective. So we created an advisory council made up of about 5 to 6 students from each college, and they met quarterly. We haven't met yet this year, but and, meeting on Zoom and stuff, and just for them to have a space to meet each other, create kind of that cohort feeling, stemming off of, traveling to the American Indian Science and Engineering Society or ACES conference, kind of doing, whatever that kind of cohort building, look like. And they also then shared with us what they felt were, what did they need to be successful in college? How did they need to prepare? What did they need help with? As first generation students, what were things that they had questions about? And for us, we could take that back to help with our recruitment teams, with how we approach kind of college readiness. So then we created a college readiness online forum. So we had guest speakers, we had like a scholarship and financial aid information. We had like, how do you create your application? What makes a good application? So kind of all of these things, and did that in an online format. And that was, available to any Native youth, Native high school student. And that was done, we had two different sessions for that. And then the students that participated in the advisory council, they also receive a stipend for coming to the meetings. The other piece then was just to really look at, just strengthening the collaborations again between the tribal communities, between the education departments, and what are the needs at the local level. What I will say is, from the success of just beginning the New Beginnings project, right away the next year we applied for additional funding, and that then we wanted to kind of keep building upon that success and also kind of create even more synergy. Like, how do we create these cohorts between the students? And so at this point, we brought in additional partners. So Wisconsin Tribal Conservation Advisory Council, WCAC, was brought in as far as the career side and helping create connections in high schools focused on STEM careers. So that's something that we're hoping to really implement this year. And then this previous summer, and then CALS, and I'm sorry for not knowing the UW acronym, but there's some professors from CALS, Dr. Anna Pigeon, that were brought in as faculty mentors, and they worked with faculty at Oreilles and College of Menominee Nation and created this Indigenous land stewardship course. So students from each institution could register for the credit at their campus, but it was a very synergistic cohort model where everything was held. It was a week-long hands-on course at the College of Menominee Nation, very culturally focused, experiential learning. There was faculty and professors from each institution that taught little pieces of the course, and the students, I know one of the students that we had from Oreilles came back and was like, I want to change my major. It was very moving, just a great experience, I think, for all the students that participated in that. So we're going to do that again this summer. And so again, we'd probably have about 24 students in that cohort. And then this summer it'll be held, or the summer of 2023 will be held at Oreilles. So then again, building on that kind of synergy from New Beginnings 2 led us to applying for New Beginnings 3. So in New Beginnings 3, we brought in additional partner, like formal partner with the Ho-Chunk Nation. And so looking at specific youth programming, some of the Earth Partnership Framework for Indigenous Arts and Science for the youth. So not just at LCOOU and College of Nomination, but having an institute and more programming at Madison to formalize that. And then bringing in a program coordinator. So someone that can assist with all of the logistics and the marketing and the recruitment. And we just felt as far as capacity building, that would be just really critical to moving the project forward. So, and we did receive a supplement from NIFA to accomplish that. And I guess just, going forward, it's been a great experience as far as to be a co-PI, that, we've gotten so much more out of it than just the funding. I'll be honest, we're very underspent in the grant, but it's the relationship building, and it's the looking at how we are coming together for Native students across the state. And regardless of like what institution they end up enrolling in, that each one of those Native students matters to all of us, and that we want them to be successful. And that's the basis of, kind of the foundation of what we've built. So, whether New Beginnings 4 happens or something in the future, I know one of the barriers that we have had is that there is a match requirement for the grant. So there is a dollar for dollar match, and that has been probably just the most challenging thing that we've experienced. And so, going forward, if there's any programs and that could help support us in that endeavor, that would be great. But again, just the relationship building has been just really amazing to be a part of.
Chimigwich, Amber Marlow, good to be with you. Congratulations on the new name. And what an honor. Participants, Native Ed Pathways Forum participants, please join me in expressing gratitude for these project share outs. You can put a little message in the chat. If you have questions for those presenters, please do fire those off in the chat and engage that way. And we're going to keep moving with our star-studded lineup of speakers. I'd like to welcome in Diane Rave of Ho-Chunk Nation Higher Education. Diane, good to see you, and welcome in. I'm going to hand over the mic to you, lady, and thank you for your patience and your flexibility today. Looking forward to hearing from you, and welcome.
Thank you. Heidi Hinikaragiwe, Washuska Winga is my Indian name, and I'm Diane Brave. Just listening to everybody's presentations, I'm so impressed with how much work is being done out there. Michelle had asked me to present a little bit on what our higher education division program has done over the past few years. And, I had to kind of reflect back on, how long I've been here. I've had the pleasure to work with our students in our community for almost 3 decades in just education. And so a lot of things have changed. I started when there was only funding that was through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and came on during a really highly political time frame when funding was really limited, and the services that we could provide to our students were very limited. With the Code of Federal Regulations, we were required, they had to be full-time, they had to meet a lot of different standards to be funded. And so over the years, things have changed, and we've been able to, with Gaming Enterprise, we've been able to substantially change our program to what we offer, where now our Bureau of Indian Affairs funding over the years has been just assist so few of our students, and that we are substantially funded by our tribe's net profit distributions, which allows us to basically really look at our community and find out what their needs are. We had our youth services program work, in our education department a number of years ago, and there was closer relationships. And as our funding, our program started to expand, we started to, make some changes. They moved to a different program, but our students really, had, things have changed so much. I was kind of writing down a few things just in the last, 10, 15 years that, the progression of our students in K-12 and how they get through high school and if and how they get into post-secondary education. And we've had a lot of struggles. We've had a lot of obstacles in regard to, different programming within the schools. So one of the things that I reflected on when I used to do my BIA reports is how many students when I in the early 90s that were GED recipients. I mean, these students had come in and they had to work extremely hard to get into post-secondary. And now, and almost every student was, need-based. So when coming back in with all of these resources, I start looking at, what's changed so much. And, we've had the BIA boarding schools and we've had the Job Corps and we've had, alternative high school programs that don't really gear our students up for post-secondary. So we started programs that assisted in maybe assessing some of those needs in helping them through their remedial and developmental programs. So, that was big. We get these alternative high school programs offer basically a GED. We've had, because we're a gaming tribe, things have changed within our government that, force students to have a high school graduation. And we thought, oh, that's going to be great. It's going to be an easy transition to post-secondary. And, we didn't see that. We've seen a lot of our students in a lot of our bigger Indian communities getting just passed through some of these alternative education programs, still wanting to get into programs that, you're all in right now. And a lot of the, health, IT, communications, business, IT, were all those high demand fields. And, they all wanted to be in those, but they had no foundation to get into those classes. And so, we had to work, really hard, and we still have a lot to do, but some of the program things that, we're doing in higher education is trying to really figure out what the students, are going through and what, providing opportunities, with our limit, a lot of limitations to this, getting out there with the parents. I mean, and now with the pandemic, the biggest thing that's been a change for us as advising is, we were forced to go virtual. I mean, so many schools and so many programs were required to do that. But for us as a higher education division, we were once a division of 12, staff members. For our tribe isn't, that big. And we're down to 2 case managers, myself as an administrator and a remote a division manager. So, we are still trying to offer a big service to our students, and, they're all over the United States. We're dealing from 2-year and 4-year and our grad students and our professional students, to our doctoral students. I was looking at how many schools that, I deal with in a year. It's, roughly around 100 different schools. Our main focus, in the past was just money. Anybody that came through higher education, all they wanted to know about is their scholarship funding. And we really wanted to change that. I mean, back when Adrienne was our executive director, she made a big change in the department to switch that program over to not a financial division, but an academic division. And, we were still out in our communities explaining that, and we found that nobody wanted to talk to anyone about academic advising. They just wanted to call and ask, where's my money? And so we had a lot of work, so we're starting programs that are really trying to, find out how we can provide a better service to our students. And, I know that on the agenda, it was listed as youth advising. And over the, almost 3 decades, I start thinking, when I first started, there wasn't a lot of traditional age students going to school. It was a lot of our non-trad students. And so, we had to kind of shift our focus on how we, communicate and advise students from high school to students that are working and have families and all of the obstacles that they have. So our staff does a really, really good job of trying to find out, what are those things that, might, that we might be able to serve students better to get them to graduation. And so with that, we have, a number of programs other than just our financial aid that they're able to receive is that, we have, we look at some priority areas of funding. Our tribe provides educational leave, which is wonderful. And I think that there was an increase, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago from 24 hours to, I believe, 30, or I should say that it was per week. It went from 6 hours to 8 hours. And it made a big difference because students that have families usually were only going part-time, and it took them a very, very long time to get through a program. And so, with a lot of that, Dr. Lewis, our division manager, had created an internship program, which we've had internship programs in the past, but they were just like temporary job placement. The internship program that he created probably almost 10 years ago now really provided a lot of foundation. He provided cultural training. He provided almost like a mini civics class. Brought in Joanne Jones and had him explain a lot of different things that were going on, at the start of our government. Really made a lot of these students really want to be part of Ho-Chunk Nation. And it was a big, big success. I think we looked at those numbers. We were looking at, we only had 10, 12 of those students each year, but they were coming from a lot of different places, not just our Indian communities. So we've seen that I think 86% of the students that went through one of our summer internship programs came back and worked for the nation in some capacity in their area of study. So of course, when the pandemic had come, and a lot of those support programs, we really seen how hard that was when we're dependent on the tribe's funding. So then we were right back to the basic BIA funding. And, right now we're just building a lot of our programs back up. We're starting to offer our study abroad opportunities. We've had fantastic results from our students that have been able to do semester-long programs or, the shorter summer programs or winterim, and really trying to, create like a mentorship program and having them encourage other people to do so. We've had, the academic advising, we have a disabilities department or division within our department now. I ask on our applications a few additional questions on there to try to get an idea of what our membership is interested in knowing. I know that we had a real big push a few years ago in a different administration about language. And, we tried providing everything that the language department had to our post-secondary students. And we had fabulous results from that. And then, there, like Adrienne had mentioned that there was some changes and how that was being presented out. We kind of pulled back on that. I'd love to start that again after, hearing her presentation today. Some of the other tools that we have that I use a lot is our College Navigator. It is, it's a very old tool, but the U.S. Department of Education and their National Center of Education Statistics has a wonderful tool to let students really look at what's available outside of just maybe their specific area. We have students that come in their 2-year program and move on to their 4-year. And now there's so many opportunities because most of those schools offer something online. We have a substantial scholarship for our students for 2-year to 4-year. Our graduate program is, I think that when I first started, we had 8 students that graduated, and I was so excited. Now we have about 65 students that graduate, and a lot of them are grad students. A lot of them are here working in the nation. And that is, that really keeps, I think, our staff going to see that the hard work that we do with those students, that they come back and provide such a great service to the nation. Some of the other things that I think that we have been fairly successful in doing is, being able to communicate with our families as a whole. I know Michelle, when she was working with the financial literacy program with the nation, we had a couple of events, and that's what the parents had asked. They asked, I want to do this, as a family. I mean, their whole family needed to be, I guess, committed into the changes that were happening with their young adult students. So we kind of switched our focus to, making sure that we provide a way for them to be part of the process. We also let the students decide, who is in that circle. Sometimes they want to just know information on their own, and sometimes they do want their parents or family members that are supporting them part of that conversation. So being able to have virtual, we do WebEx with almost all of our students. Anyone that's a new student that needs coaching or assistance with their financial aid, we can go online and be able to walk them through their steps of getting through that process. Of course, we're a trust fund tribe, so we have a lot of complex things that have gone on in the last couple of years with our trust. We switched our trust, and then FAFSA changed a prior year, and our parents that are previous students were so confused on the process. So everything that they knew from long ago had changed drastically. So we're working on trying to get more information out to our communities so that they feel comfortable completing, the process of just getting into school. We have an achievement award program so that we know who our students are. A lot of students are receiving aid from some other source. And so we do have a graduation achievement that we're able to provide a monetary award to students, and trying to make sure that we know who our members are that have credentials. And so it's fascinating to see some of these people that have went through their entire programs and with funding from another source, and come back and are in a doctoral program or just finishing their master's degree or their law degree. We work closely with the Good Life grant that Adrienne had talked about, and trying to make sure that we have those opportunities back, to get students in their college or visits, being able to do that preliminary work with the students. That grant is going to be a very useful tool to be able to make sure that students have access and information and able to visit and check out programs and feel comfortable about the decisions that they're making about school. This year, we'd also received a grant from the federal government that we're providing for computer and technology. And that's the first time in all the years that I've been here that we've been able to offer students a computer grant, basically, of $1,200. So a lot of students want to talk to us now. So that's been very beneficial. So, but yes, that is kind of our program in a nutshell. We try as our program starts to grow again, offering advisors back in specific areas that we had done in the past, where we had an advisor that was just specific to the tribes, like a career advisor, and one that worked with high school, and then one that worked with just transition from either a 2-year to a 4-year, or from their bachelor's degree to grad school. We live in a lot of different communities, we move a lot, and a lot of our students really struggle with staying in a program. So transferring from one school to another school, trying to make sure that they get that their credits that they've already earned are really taken into consideration at their new program. So there's a lot of stuff. There's never, there's always things that are going on in higher ed, and we've been pretty successful with the funding that we've had to meet those needs, and hopefully that we can continue to do that. Some of the things that we've done in the past that we haven't been able to do for the last few years is just really work with other tribes and to try to co-sponsor events. I think it's really important for our students to be working with other tribal students that are interested in doing the same things. So I'm hoping that we're able to coordinate those events again here in the near future. I don't know if anyone has any questions on our higher ed division.
Pinagigi, Diane, Rave, for your hard work. What an inspiration. Again, participants, please join in here. We'll take a question for Diane Rave before we transition to our next speaker. If folks have a question for Diane Rave of Ho-Chunk Nation Higher Education Department. Participants, bring it in. Let's hear from you. You're getting applause.
Well, I just want to ask something. I just want to give a shout out to the Higher Education Division for the Ho-Chunk Nation, and have paid for my 3 degrees. And not only do they don't just throw money at students, they help with services and student support services and connect with colleges and with universities to help our students on campus. And I feel like Diane's been a big part of that over the years. She's been there for a long time and really knows her thing. She's very committed to the work that she does and very knowledgeable. I guess my question, Diane, is that with us slowly coming out of the pandemic, I know that some of the events that used to be held, is there a plan for that coming up here? I know that there was a college day, all of those kinds of things. And I always remember College Goal Sunday as being like, a playoff on the football thing. But these events that are happening, is there a plan for those?
Yes, I mean, and of course, that plan, is on our timeline, and trying to find additional ways to get funding back for those particular programs. Moving some of our money around in our federal grant has been able to get us to be able to have planned a couple of events this year. Working with Ryan's program and the Good Life program, we should be able to also do that. We meet weekly at our case management, and some of the things that we're going to be working on actually tomorrow is setting up that timeline, trying to find out how can we best use our funds even at the end of the year if we have to mod money around, so that the funding that the tribe is provided to education really stays in education if we don't use the remaining amount at the end of the fiscal year. And for those types of events. So getting that that information and our justification ready now as we're out and talking with the community is really, really important. The College Goal Sunday, we had a number of individuals talk about that, and I believe that we're going to start something that's a little bit different than that, and that's doing a financial aid or FAFSA coaching session every 2 weeks, offering some times in different in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, just when we think that students and parents might be available to log on and ask questions about the current changes, the upcoming changes, we're getting a lot of questions right now just about loan forgiveness, so it's hard to get information out to our membership because if we do that, it's mostly by social media, because so many people have moved since we had their last address. So, we're hoping that will kind of fill the void until we're able to do big events again.
Pinagigi, Michelle Cloud, for your question and for facilitating Diane Rave joining in today. Ho-Chunk Nation showing up really strong today, and we appreciate hearing about your work and you taking the time to share that, Diane. folks, please join me in expressing gratitude to Diane Rave of Ho-Chunk Nation Higher Education Department. We can use the chat and engage there. I want to transition to our next speaker, welcoming in Beth Paap of Bayfield School District, who serves as the district administrator and also as a project partner to us with Earth Partnership, Indigenous Arts and Sciences. Beth, bonjour, good evening. Turning the mic over to you. You can take us right up to 6:30 because I just have a very quick wrap up. So please feel free to fill that time and welcome in, Beth.
All right, miigwech, bonjour, everybody. Mani Dumak Indigenous Magazine Dode Misquabakong in Dunjaba. I'm very humbled and honored to have been asked to share a little bit of what I get to do on the daily in working at the school district of Bayfield. My name is Beth Paap, and I have been with the school district first as a teacher, and then a couple years ago moved into the district administrator position. So my experience before then has been working at LCOOU, Ojibwe, now university, and in a bunch of different roles there. So I've been in education for quite some time. What I was asked to share with you today is a little bit about how our public school district partners and collaborates with the Red Cliff tribe. We are an Indigenous dominant school district. We have approximately 420 students, the majority of whom are Indigenous students, primarily from Red Cliff, which is also my home. And that being the case, when I had the opportunity to be in this role, one of my goals was to take an assessment on what sort of partnerships the school district had existing in ultimately helping support the teaching and learning component of school, which is the center of what we do, and primarily how we partner with our students, families, and caregivers. So a big priority since stepping into that role has been just lots of community outreach. Of course, we all know that the pandemic has really caused a lot of challenges and barriers. And it was an opportunity for us to be able to step outside of that public school box and how it has been designed and really look at what our community needs are around teaching and learning. And so that was an opportunity just to very humbly ask for help from the tribe and from the families. We needed to work together, even more so. There were a lot of pauses and gaps in instruction, as you all probably have lived yourselves and have your own version of that story. But what I found really uplifting with Bayfield is our district has really prided ourselves on working with our individual students and their families, and our teachers and staff do an amazing job. And I know people throw around amazing and awesome all the time, but truly an amazing job in building those relationships. Those relationships take time. There's trust connected with it. There's cultural understanding connected with it. And I feel that our 120 staff do a lot of things to connect with families and our students. So I can't emphasize that enough. It's not just about having a family night at the school. Go to the community and have a family night. Go to the neighborhoods, go to the community centers, go to those venues, those places in your tribal communities. And for us as a public school, be there and show up. that engagement doesn't end June, whatever, when school ends. It's 12 months out of the year. So our encouragement to our staff is to go to Red Cliff's powwow in July, be a part of it, go to Red Cliff Language Camp, go to the activities that are happening. And that we have found to not only be of benefit to the staff, but of course, that is that trust building relationship. And as a district, one of our strategical priorities is just that community engagement. So we know that we're just one piece of the circle for success for our students. And so much is families, the community, and being aware of the overarching cultural reality and lens through which our students and families look, and being respectful of that. Our goal too as a district is to have our overarching focus be Indigenous knowledge. So we, for the past 3 years, have really moved to embracing a K-12 integration of wild ricing, of medicinal plant relationships and gathering and harvest, of sugar bush, of hunting and fishing. So all of those subjects have become other avenues of engagement for the Red Cliff community. And it's also legitimizing the academic and the scholarly focus of those subjects. It's not just a field trip. It is a pathway of learning for our students and families and teachers. And I feel like the public school has done a really good job at siloing kind of the heroes and the holidays of Indigenous peoples. And we're all about moving that toward, with the community's help and nod of acceptance and approval, to incorporate these things in the best way we can to really support our students and their success. And also bringing voice and experience to a cultural practice as a career path, and how they can realize themselves in on that pathway, and what they can do to achieve those goals, to have good purpose. Yes, put food on the table, but also that identity building all along. And again, that's really done with how we approach our relationship with not only with our students, but then obviously with the community and families. So there's no like secret golden ticket on how you make that happen. It's time, it's respectful persistence, it's asking questions, it's understanding the culture, and if that and following protocols to properly ask, to properly be a part, and encouraging our teachers, be they Native or not, to go there for the good of our students, and to go there for their own development and identity as educators. So I just rattled off a bunch of stuff. I'm going to take a breather. I certainly don't expect to just like talk at you for minutes and minutes, because I can already see the look on the faces of the people that I see, and they're like, oh my God. So I certainly welcome any questions that you have. I see that my awesome colleague, there's the word again, awesome. Colleen Bagan is on the call as well, and she's new to our district. She might have some perspective as well to share. So miigwech.
Wonderful. Yes, Beth, Paap, hitting on a lot of just everything you said just resonates. And so just really, really appreciate you. You're so eloquent. What a superstar. We're so happy to have you here with us and on our projects as well. What an honor. Colleen, you got a little shout. Did you want to, no pressure, but are you going to
unmute that mic? Get off
I'm
that
like,
couch.
gee, thanks, Beth. No, sorry. No, Miigwech, Beth, and Bonjour, everyone. Yes, I'm Colleen Bagan, and I have the honor of serving as the Dean of Curriculum and Instruction at Bayfield Schools. I just started in July. I've already had the honor to work briefly with Sarah, and I'm looking forward to working with Sarah Gordon even further in the coming months on indigenizing our curriculum. So that I am just gathering information and knowledge and just taking it all in right now, and trying to make connections. I've made connections at the library at Redcliffe, and will continue to foster those relationships with the Redcliffe community. And I'm just excited about where we can go with all of the wonderful things happening. And we have, I'm going to use a different word, a brilliant leader in Beth Paap. I'm going to use the word brilliant, grand.
Good. Thanks for mixing it up there
Right.
with the brilliant. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Colleen. Good to meet you. Participants, educators out there, please weigh in, and any questions for Beth Paap. We would like to hear from you. We've got a couple minutes here to engage with Beth and Colleen, if she wants to weigh in too, representing Bayfield School District. So questions from our audience, opening it up. I have a question, Beth. This is a policy question. How do you feel that local work that you're doing and policy work that you're doing in terms of indigenizing in curricula and learning in the Bayfield School District, will that have an impact statewide? Do you have plans for that, to share that out once you're ready, or just plans for that in terms of applications to other districts of some of the things that you're talking about, Beth?
We're happy to share anything that we can. I think the more that our institutions are open to doing that, the better off our children and the future for our children will be. Again, we are really committed to, I think at the end of the day, collaboration. We are a public school. We need to reflect who our public is. And for us, it is, as I said, an Indigenous dominant district. And it seems a bit silly not to include Indigenous knowledge as our overarching focus for, calculus to art to language arts. So we, in our curriculum building, as Colleen mentioned, we're certainly open to working with other districts if they're interested in figuring out, well, what lessons did you do, and how did you thread wild rice K-12, and what were your steps and progression, and what sort of activities did you do, et cetera, et cetera. Happy to do that. We don't have any finished products at this point. Well, maybe Sugarbush we do. We've been doing that as a district for quite a while, and we have a lot of lessons and pathways for learning on that. But it's too collaborating and just reaching out with other communities. Oh, you guys study Sugarbush? All right, let's compare notes, and let's see what works. So that's where we are right now. Have we had any resistance and pushback from families saying we don't want our kids to learn this in school? A few, native and non-native. And that's always a great conversation. I welcome those kinds of conversations. It always pushes me to understand that not everybody's in agreement with what we're doing. But I think that the research is there on the value, on the impact of all students learning that multicultural approach. James Banks, when in the 90s was saying it, multicultural education is not only a benefit for our brown and black children, it's for all children. Why? Because that really grows understanding, that grows empathy. And we see lack of understanding what that product often is, which is conflict, which is look at the news and see what's going on around the world. But to circle back to your question, yes, we would love to share what we're doing with other schools and districts and communities in Wisconsin and beyond.
Right. Yes, Beth, thank you. I think we're, if there are no other questions from the audience, I'll just pause here for a second. Does any other questions for Beth Paap?
Hi, Beth. This is Michelle Clout. I feel like I'm asking a lot of questions, but good to see you again. With such a large concentration of Indigenous students, do you utilize anything like culturally responsive teaching with educators, or what does the professional development for educators there at the school district look like?
We certainly do use CRSL, and that's a great framework. And it also, I think, has that kind of research behind it to say it's not like, here's the proof and the benefits of doing it. We do have specific, professional development opportunities throughout the year, not just to like a one and done, we check the box off. So it is that continued focus on offering experiences and materials. But I love the CRSL model and really think that it's underutilized. So I appreciate you bringing it up. Thank you.
Thank Pinagigi, Michelle, for your question. Good to hear you. Thanks for keeping the conversation going. Folks, we're going to wrap up now. Beth, Miigwech, for joining in and for your work. It's so good to be together tonight with each of you all. What a wonderful group of speakers, and a big shout out to our participants as well. I know we're all working really hard and the daily heroes for our young ones and for students of all ages. So just want to express my gratitude for each of you for your work, and we will be meeting tomorrow. And the agenda was shared via email. So we're meeting tomorrow. It's the same meeting link, same time, 4 p.m. CST. So feel free to join in then. And we have a series of topics that we'll be covering tomorrow. And then we'll be kind of wrapping up with an invitation to stay involved at the end of tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to seeing you all again, and have a great night.
Thank you, Jessie.